The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hello and welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. Day 5 is coming up here at the Adelaide Oval. We've just finished day 4 and Australia, while they're 4 wickets away from retaining the Ashes, aren't they, Lou? Another big day for the Aussies. They couldn't quite get England to roll over like they have previously in the series, but they're just about there thanks to a couple of great bowling performances from Pat Cummins and Nathan Lyon. So, Lou, where do we begin with today's recap of the action?
Are we ready to call it a four-peat? This will be Australia's 4th consecutive Ashes series victory at home. Are we ready to go there? Is it something, it's just for all the talk about this series being different, these Baz bowlers are going to come out and bash the Aussies off their length. And if nothing else, I think a sober prediction, probably for me and maybe you as well, was that these guys were probably going to threaten Australia more than some of the other English teams have as we stand. It's going to be 3-0 tomorrow and pretty much gone the same way as all the other series, bar 2010-11 over the last 15 years or so. It's a shame because
it is. And
it did kind of look for a moment today like there might just be threatening something, like this is a team that can chase big scores. It's kind of how there was their foundation, right? Like the early days of Bazball was, big chases. They had 3 in a row, I think, against New Zealand. That
Johnny
first,
Bairstow.
Exactly right, yeah. But also Joe Root and some others, and even I think it was Duckett and Jamie Smith who took them to a pretty big one, 370 odd against India. You look at all of those ones, and they're all done 3 or 5 wickets down. There's 4 or 5 of them above 350 runs or above 320 runs. So you kind of thought, well, they had a fair bit more in the tank. They could have chased a target like 435, for example, if they had been needing it. So it looked for a moment there like they could give it a nudge, or at least get to the point tonight to stumps where it was within the realms of possibility. It happened in that last hour.
Yeah, it certainly did, and I'm sure if you go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, we're talking up Bazball and saying this is finally going to be a great contest. Unfortunately,
if you are an England fan listening now, I would recommend going back right now. Pause this episode, go back and listen to those ones before the series started, or maybe even after day 1 in Perth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had some feedback from England fans who have found the pod this series, so welcome to all those listeners.
Okay.
And hopefully
it's somewhat fair-minded.
And hopefully you're still hanging on at this point of the series, because there's still a lot of cricket to come, even though we'll get to Boxing Day and the series will be decided. So should we start with that last hour? Because it was the Nathan Lyon Show, wasn't it? Pat Cummins did the damage earlier in the day, but Nathan Lyon got the ball and went on a bit of a charge. He took 3 for 7 in the space of 20 balls from the Riverbank stand end of the ground, including some really big wickets. Harry Brook, Ben Stokes both bowled, and then Zach Crawley, who batted really, really well.
Batted beautifully, yeah, and I'd like to chat a little bit about Zach Crawley at some point, but let's talk about Nathan Lyon. So he took 2 wickets on day 2 in that over. I think it was the 3rd and 6th ball of that over. He got Ben Duckett out and he got Ollie Pope out. Between that and him then getting Brook out today, he bowled 37.1 overs without taking a wicket.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's across 2 innings. Yes, he bowled extremely tightly in that first innings, but I felt like England really had his measure in those first 10 overs. I think his figures were none for 49. They played him really well. Brook reverse swept him and swept him really well. Crawley did the same. Joe Root, while he was in, they looked like they had Nathan's measure to the point where Pat Cummins had to take him off. And all of a sudden Travis Head's bowling. I know, they would say that Trav's a bit of a different kind of operator. It's not necessarily like for like. Travis looked more threatening. I mean, he should have had Joe Root out. If Hassan Raza had given that one where Root's shouldered arms to a ball outside off stump, hit him on the pad, umpire's call on off stump. The Aussies were filthy, that wasn't given out. But all of a sudden, Trav's kind of creating something, and it looks like Lyon might not have a huge role to play today. He gets brought back on, I think, from the opposite end to what he'd initially been bowling from, and second ball, Harry Brook plays a shot that people will have problems with. Like this is a thing that happens. People play reverse sweeps and they play switch hits and they get out sometimes doing that. and it seems to really annoy a lot of old-timers, old stagers, traditionalists of the game. The fact is he scored a lot of runs from it. I think quite a few of the English batters did. Do you have some stats around that?
Well, yeah, it was a shot that Brooke used quite a bit, and Crawley said in his press conference that because there was just so few fielders in that area of the ground that they felt like it was a good way to go. Brooke scored 10 runs with that shot in particular, a couple of boundaries there, and then
that's a third of his runs.
Yeah.
He's only made 30 and he scored 10 of them with reverse
so there you
sweep.
go. Yep, so it was a profitable area for him. But then the ball that he got out on, I mean, that spun a long, long way, and it's only just clipped his leg stump.
That's right.
He looked completely bemused that it hit his leg. I think he was thinking that must have missed the stumps and Carey's knocked it on or something. But if you look at that down the line camera from about mid-off, it's amazing how that ball, just the seam, manages to collect the edge of that leg stump.
Yeah, big deviation. These guys know that Nathan Lyon puts a huge amount of overspun revs on it. They know that he's going to be more of a threat on a day 4 or 5 pitch. You could see the odd one kind of not exploding out of the surface, but there was some dust, some dirt coming out of the pitch. That's what we want. That's why we love Test cricket. It should get harder to bat on day 4. It's by no means diabolical, but balls are going to start to misbehave a little bit, and I think that's probably why they played him so aggressively. Is they know, well, okay, he's going to spin some balls. He's going to be a real threat. We're going to try and reverse sweep him off his length. So, look, I don't have a huge problem with Harry Brook playing that shot, but then he really gets on a roll. Lyon doesn't he? And Stokes. I was in the bathroom when he got bowled, and I came back out and I'm watching the replays, and people are going, "Oh, miracle ball" and stuff. Well, was it? Like, I kind of felt.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I mean, it was a good ball. Pitch middle, hit off stump, good ball. But like Nathan Lyon will bowl some of those. It's how Duckett got out in the first innings. It's always an interesting debate when you think of Australian and English teams going to Asia. One of their big things is they never want to get beaten on the inside. They're happy to get beaten on the outside of the bat, but they basically cover their stumps and the straight. They don't want to get bowled by the straight ball. We've seen how many times someone like Jadeja goes, spins, rips, 3 or 4 past the outside edge, and then it's the one that doesn't turn that goes through. I mean, these ones are interesting because they're getting. That's twice now England batters have been beaten on their outside and still gotten bowled. So. Could they be covering their stumps a little bit more and making the umpire make a decision? Because for both of them, like if they'd been hit on the pads, they probably would have been umpire's call anyway, right?
Yeah.
So like to get clean bowled by a guy, he's not bowling mystery balls. You probably know what he's going to do. I'd suggest maybe. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying like get something in the way because it's hard to get out LBW and it's clean bowled.
Yeah,
that's my batting advice for Ben Stokes and Ben Duckett if they're listening. I'm sure they'll really rate what I've got to say on that front.
And just because it's coming doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy to defend, right? Especially if it's on that perfect length, which Lyon, as you said in his first spell, probably didn't quite get right, but certainly did in that second. Then there were shades of, especially after the Crawley dismissal, which was his third, and another excellent piece of keeping from Alex Carey, shades of that 2014 test, wasn't there, where he was running off towards the members' stand in the fading light and the long shadows and the rest of the team following him. It just was a really nice moment there, which brought back memories from that decade ago match.
100%, and the spell that we were talking about earlier this week, that the plaque's been put up on the Avenue of Honour, specifically honouring that spell where he did that. He's not moving quite as quickly as he was maybe 10, 11 years ago now. But on Stokes, I think I kind of heard a bit of an undercurrent of criticism around Ben Stokes and the way he's played. The fact he didn't bowl yesterday. He came in, bowled 7 overs on the bounce first thing today to kind of put to bed any suggestions that he is injured. I reckon it's really harsh. Like, of all the problems England have, Ben Stokes is not one of them.
He was still out there captaining and everything, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and leading the fight. I think, you could accuse him potentially of some mixed messages at times in this series in terms of, they've emboldened England to play a certain way and then they've gotten here, they've failed, and all of a sudden we need to show more fight, and I don't want to see weak men like that. Could be misinterpreted, potentially. But in terms of what he's doing as a player, I mean, he bowled 20 overs on a very hot day 1. He batted most of an extremely hot day 2, where we kind of learnt that he actually couldn't replace the fluids and carbohydrates he was losing in his sweat, and then he's come back and batted for an hour or so the next day, And the series was already gone, I think, when he got criticised for not bowling on day 3. So I just want to add that in, that I just reckon that's been a touch harsh on Stokes.
Okay, Cameron stands behind Stokes. That's our headline for this one. Yeah. Alex Carey again. What did you make of that stumping? To get rid of Zach Crawley, who batted really well for 85. It was as patient as we've ever seen him at this level, and looked like he was going to get that final 15 runs, but then beaten in the flight by Lyon, and Carey's glove work was just too quick. He couldn't get back. He didn't even try to get back. That's how quick it was.
Yeah, no surprises there at all. He's had an incredible test. I mean, it looked at one point like he was on track to become, I think it was the first Australian keeper to make 2 centuries in a test match. He's up to 7 or 8 dismissals for the game. I think 7. He had 5 catches in the first innings. So he is having a hell of a series. He's rivaling Travis, and I mean, who would be player of the series at this point? I mean,
well, Stark's got to be right up there.
Yeah, but then slightly. I mean, he still bowled beautifully, but slightly quieter. Third test. Trav 2 centuries, potentially you could argue him, but Carey's right up there. I mean, it's just had a phenomenal series. But again, it was a good, not great Australian batting effort. This is kind of, I feel like I bang on about this a lot, but Australia's bowling, especially in this test, it's just been, all series, but this test has just been spectacular. Their batting, again, like they had the chance to set them an impossible target, like 550, 600. You really felt like Travis could have made 250 runs today, and it was really there for the taking. Carey, very hard to criticise him, of course, but a big 100 was there for the taking for him as well. They end up losing their last 6 wickets for I think it was 38 runs, and their bowling before lunch probably wouldn't have been exactly how they drew it up. Again, just like they've ended up making 349 runs in the second innings at 4 and over, but a truly great, a truly legendary team would really just completely put it out of England's grasp, and this will be the most frustrating part for England. Is they're looking at this team, and there's a bunch of question marks from a selection point of view over Australia's top order, their top 7. They haven't, it's not functioning perfectly. Whereas you say the bowling is, and England have been beaten by an imperfect team. That's probably the frustrating bit for them.
Absolutely. Now, the target was 435, and one of those aspects of the bowling group that is functioning well is Pat Cummins. The return of the captain, and he was great today. 7 overs in his first spell, either side of lunch, 2 for 19 he got on that one. Then he came back for a second spell a little bit later, 1 for 5 off 3 overs. In that, he's just absolutely hit the ground running. He's looked great, and a little bit of byplay right before lunch. You got the wicket of Duckett, who just couldn't resist a little waft outside the off stump in the final over before the break. And then Zach Crawley just played a few little mind games with the bowler, which I think everybody enjoyed.
Well, the waft for Ben Duckett is probably a kind way of describing that dismissal. I mean, that was catching practice for Marnus Labuschagne. That he has low-key had an awful series. And this is a guy who I personally thought could really succeed in Australia. He's got all the tools, plays beautifully off his pads, scores heavily behind point, but you just can't play that shot in Australia. Like with especially on a day 4 pitch with variable bounce, but just even on a day 1 pitch when it's going to zip through with a new ball, I know he's got this gimmick about never leaving balls, and he's averaged over 40 as a test opener doing so. Well, he must be able to play, but he's been a massive disappointment. And Crawley, on the other hand, after that pair in Perth, he's really shown real growth. Like he had a pretty good test under lights in Brisbane as well, and then he was 1 of 29 balls today, 1 of 28 balls I think, before he played a cover drive off Stark to kind of get going. He was tremendous, but and look, he's got some real game smarts about him. Like he enraged India earlier this year.
That's right.
I think Shubman Gill said something that we wouldn't be able to repeat on this podcast when he turned a 2-over spell just before stumps into a 1-over spell by wasting time and getting the physio to come out.
Gloves and all
that's
that.
Right, yeah. Proper Millwall stuff is how he described it in an interview with the Times. So there's some game awareness stuff that he's pretty good at, and then some other game awareness stuff that he clearly hasn't improved on. I mean, he's playing his 62nd test, and he's got, I think, one of the worst records as an opener in Test history for someone who's played as much cricket as he has. So it's kind of like a bit too little, too late. Like all of a sudden, he's kind of figuring it out. But England needed a bit sooner. But yeah, it shouldn't take away from Pat, especially what transpired with the Ollie Pope wicket.
Oh, well, absolutely. Let's get to that. Marnus Labuschagne standing nice and close at second slip, it must be said, and in a floppy hat too, which I'm not sure if there's a story behind that, but he hasn't really worn the floppy so far this series. So he had it on all day today, and
you never miss a bit of headwear or a bit of equipment or kit.
It's important to take note of. It's all part of the colour of the game.
Yep.
But then, it was an Ollie Pope edge off Cummins. Flew pretty quick and low to Labuschagne's left, and he just stuck out a left hand, and it stuck, didn't it? And then he was smart enough and had the presence of mind to actually whip his wrist up so the ball didn't touch the ground. I mean, it wasn't going to carry to Khawaja at first slip.
Would have bounced twice before Khawaja.
And very similar to that Smith catch off Will Jacks at the Gabba. Which is better in your view there, Lou?
Yeah, a bit to take in for both. I mean, Labuschagne's from the point of view of the slips Gordon were really close, I reckon. I reckon they must have looked at some data of the back end of their batting innings and gone, well, all our edges are falling short of the Gordon. We're going to make sure that if we drop one, it's going to burst through our hands. So you'd rather give yourself a chance to catch one up around your ears than miss ones down near your toes. So he's got a lot less time to react. Very similar to Smith's one in Brisbane, where that was one where Carey was keeping up to the stumps. Michael Nisa was bowling that kind of irresistible length. Smith, I think I'll probably give the chocolates to Smith.
Really?
Some interesting context around that. He said that he was fielding wider than what he was at normally a first slip. I think he was the only guy in the cordon at that point. He was fielding wider than he normally would because Carey was just gloving so many balls and keeping so spectacularly. But the game situation, I think, in Brisbane, that was the one that broke the Jacks-Stokes partnership that had really brought England, or was an attempt for England to try and get them back into the game. That snuffed out any chance of them winning that Test match. So I think Ollie Pope probably would have offered another chance, to be honest. Even though he was unlucky in the sense that that was a very, very good ball from Cummins and in the middle of a really good spell. So I think I'll just give the chocolates to Smith.
Okay, I mean, it's super impressive that both are with their non-preferred hand.
That's right.
Both low to the ground. And both, sort of in that sort of similar slips coordination. So, and of course, the celebrations were also very similar, weren't they?
Yeah.
Lou, was there a standout there? Because Smith did a bit of a run around, and so did Labuschagne.
Yeah, I think it was almost funnier. I'd give it to Smith just because it's funnier to see him react like that with Marnus. I feel like he would do that if he takes a regulation waist high catch, he'll carry on. But the funniest bit was when he spoke to Fox's Spider Cam. Not long after the catch, Marnus, the one thing he said was he wished Smith was out there so that they could immediately compare them. It's like, you just want your big brother there to kind of justify what you've done. So nice comparison.
I'm sure Smudger would have been watching on and smiling from the sidelines.
Yeah, going mine was better.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Lou, just a little throwback to the curator who spoke before this test started, Damien Hoff. He said he wanted 300 runs and 10 wickets every day of this test. Well, I've got an update for you. After 4 days, if we were going with Hoff's prediction, that would be 1,200 runs and 40 wickets, wouldn't it? After 4 days.
Yep.
You following?
Yes.
The actual scoreline is 1,211 runs and 36 wickets. So he's almost bang on.
That's extraordinary. That's a really good stat, Josh. And how does the breakdown work? So day one, it was about 8 for 320, I reckon.
That's right, yeah.
And then I guess it gets complicated because day two onwards, you're getting both teams batting, aren't you?
Yes, I can come back to you tomorrow if you're really interested.
Yeah, but we're in the ballpark there. So if it was 320 day one, you're probably looking at, something similar. England batted a little bit slower, so they were, probably a little bit under 300, but, it's not going to be exactly 300. You would have to say, it's been an excellent wicket, hasn't it? I think it's been...
Yeah, great.
If you can stand the seam up and especially with the new ball, you can get some movement out of it. And then, for the most part, it's really good for batting. I think it's quickened up as the game's gone on. If anything, it was a little slow day one, early day two. And then it's starting to turn. It's turned a little bit the whole game. and it's a bit more inconsistent turn now. That's almost the perfect cricket pitch.
Something there for everybody. So we'll come back to you after day 5 tomorrow. If Australia do manage to take those final 4 wickets, Lou, it'll be an 11-day victory across the 3 tests for the side, which would equal the fastest ever, which Australia also did in 2002-03. So it's been a hell of a performance, and we'll bring you all the action from day 5.
Look forward to it.